Hey, and welcome to this magnificent Money Monday on Newsmax TV. You're watching Liquid Lunch, and we're coming to you live as we do every day, Monday to Friday, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Newsmax headquarters, high atop Midtown Manhattan. And to start off this Money Monday, let's go downtown to the New York Stock Exchange, where the Dow continues to hold its gains from last week, up about 70 points this morning. A bunch of economic indicators coming out this week. I'll talk to you about those throughout the show. And Bitcoin at 10,300, a bit down from last week, but has really been stabilizing above the 10,000 number. It's building a nice support here. And I think Bitcoin has better days ahead, and it could be going much higher. Much higher we go on today's show when I bring in my co-host, managing editor of Liquid Lunch, Frank Morano, joins us today again.
Well, hello there, John. How was your weekend?
Frankie, my weekend was wonderful.
Wonderful.
All in all, it was a great weekend. I was all about the town, and I gotta tell you, everywhere I go, like, people are coming up to me. It's almost like Trump fans from years ago. Like, people coming up to me, not like, hey, I'm watching Liquid Lunch.
Right, like
they say hello,
Shh.
and then they come over and go, you know, I've been watching Liquid Lunch. I've been watching it, like, every day. A lot of people are telling me they're DVRing it. If you watch, I saw, new closet watcher, Jay Ziris, the Farrell basketball program.
Well, you just outed him?
Tuned in every day. Well, I'm proud that he's a viewer. He represents Heartland America.
You said he's a closeted watcher.
Well, I'm saying he just told me that he is a watcher. And there's just people coming up to me all over the place saying how much they enjoy what we are doing. I thought I'd fill you in on that.
Absolutely. None of those subjects are any of the subjects that I'll be speaking frankly about.
Some Republicans are furious about President Trump's now canceled secret meeting with the Taliban at Camp David. The meeting was scheduled for yesterday to discuss a peace agreement in the war in Afghanistan. The news coming just ahead of the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks hit a nerve with lawmakers like Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Kinzinger said no member of the Taliban should ever be allowed into the United States, and Democrats on the other side of the aisle have expressed some similar concerns. Congress is going back to work today. The Senate and the House will work to finalize individual budget bills after reaching agreement on a broad 2-year spending plan. In the House, there are growing calls among Democrats to start impeachment proceedings against President Trump. And finally, Albertsons is the latest in light of recent mass shootings. Albertsons operates stores in 34 states.
So, John, that's what's happening.
Well, Frank, you always lay it out for our audience.
Lay it out.
And you throw it out there with a special, unique style that I was mentioning earlier about all these new viewers that keep coming up to me. And everyone says, yeah, you're funny, John. You're okay. But that guy, Frank, I tell you, what a job he does.
Well, look, I've heard that from a number of people, but understand that without John to mock, I wouldn't be as funny. So everybody plays their role. It's a food chain. It's a comedic food chain.
That's right. Well, that's a good sign.
That's right.
You know, I did get some feedback last week from audience members that maybe I was being a little too hard on the staff when we missed an in, or, you know, I was busting Nico's chops that he wasn't working hard. The audience has to understand, this is not just like a show. This is a family. We got a team here, and we're not breaking your chops. You're not part of the team. So,
that's right. That's right.
Frankie's the #1 captain of the team. That's why I break his chops every day. And any chance he gets, any opening he gets, whether in front of me, behind my back, on the radio, he takes all the shots he can.
That's right. That's absolutely
And I am still, according to him, a know-it-all.
I never said you were a know-it-all, for the record, and I know you want to give your 2 cents on the world at large, but I never said you were a know-it-all. What I said was, some people might think John is a know-it-all. That's what I said. Big difference. Big difference.
You can hear these comments and more on AM 970, The Answer, here in New York, where Frankie's the producer and co-host of the Morning Joe Piscopo show. And, of course, you cannot miss every Sunday on AM 970, The Answer, on the Salem Communication Network. Morano in the morning. And this guy's like a one-man media machine.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it.
And I got a new Trump pen.
There you go. I see
now
that.
I have 2 Trump pens.
Wow.
You see,
for 2 terms, hopefully.
Many in the audience have said they love the Trump pens, and then I write notes and scribble and doodle and everything. And after 3 months, my first Trump pen is actually out of ink. It does not write anymore. And Frank, you know, an economic indicator or a Trump indicator you may want to think about. When I first bought this pen back in May, I bought it in one of these little I Love New York variety stores here, and they had like hundreds of Trump pens. And all the stores down here had these little pens.
Good people don't go into government.
You know, it says a few things, like you're fired, I'm going to build that wall. And when my pen ran out of ink, I went to when I originally bought it at Broadway, sold out. I went to the next one a little further up Broadway, sold out. I went over to Nassau Street, sold out. So in New York City, there is currently a shortage, much like the Popeyes chicken sandwich, of Trump pens. And I had to venture all the way out to Page Avenue in Staten Island to find a store that was actually stocked with Trump pens. So we are loaded with ink.
All right. Well, so what do you think that means? I mean, obviously Manhattan is not exactly a hotbed of Trumpism, and yet the pens are sold out. Do you think people are buying these pens in order to mock him? Or do you think that tourists and visitors from around the world and around the country are buying them? Or do you think something else is at play here?
Very nice
Maybe
point.
a pen suppression movement.
Maybe there's the Trump pen syndrome going on. That
TPS.
TPS. And no, you know what I think? That's a good point. It's like a contrarian indicator. You would think here in New York that the pens would be laying on the shelf for years because it's such a liberal town with one of the worst liberal mayors you could ever have. But there's so many tourists downtown. And to me, it tells me that these are sold out. People internationally love Trump. That's why they're buying the pens in New York and they're sold out. And in Staten Island, where 82% of the people voted for Donald Trump in the Republican primary, there is an abundance of pens. So I think there's a saturation factor in the Trump, because everybody already has Trump pens, so there's a few laying around. And in New York, all the international tourists are grabbing them and taking them back home with them.
Well, so this reminds me, John, I don't know if you've heard, I don't know if you had other things that you had on your mind, but it reminds me of what J.P. Morgan is doing. I'm not sure if you've heard about this, being that you're a pretty accomplished financial guy, you probably have. J.P. Morgan is creating a Volfefi index to measure presidential tweet impact on stock market volatility.
Covfefe.
So, no, this one is called Volfefi, right?
Volfefi.
So President Trump's prolific tweeting can have an effect on the markets, as we've seen. So to try and measure the impact on the bond markets, J.P. Morgan Chase has created the Volfefi index, named after the president's famously cryptic Covfefe tweet, and the index tries to look at the effect of the tweets on volatility for 2- and 5-year Treasury notes. So the folks behind the new index say it makes sense, as Trump has lately been focusing many tweets towards the Federal Reserve.
Sounds like J.P. Morgan knows that cryptocurrency is starting to squeeze them out of ripping people off on those merchant fees on their credit cards. So now they're building a new piece of market data, the Volfefi, the Volatility Tweet Effect Index, I guess, right?
Yep.
And this is just another thing they'll charge everybody to get their feed of, and they'll make some big market data fees on it or something. I think it's pretty ridiculous.
You're not a fan. You're not going to be lending much credence to the
No, I'm not going to be worried about the Volfefi. No, not at all. I'm not even concerned about something way more important in the news, but apparently Mark Sanford.
Oh, boy.
Frank. Now, you remember this guy, Mark Sanford. He was the governor of South Carolina. He was also, I think, a 5- or 6-term congressman from South Carolina. And at one point, while he was the governor, he told his wife and all of his constituents that he was going on this fact-finding peace mission to Colombia, and he was going to be in the mountains for weeks and all this other stuff. Turns out it was all a big lie. He was with his girlfriend off vacationing in the Amazon or Colombia, I forget, somewhere in South America. And now he resurfaces to challenge Donald Trump. And for all the people who say Trump lies about this, Trump lies about that, this guy was in office and he told his constituents and his family and everyone else that he was on a work mission and he wasn't. So just one little indicator. You know what I'm saying, Frank?
I do. So Mark Sanford actually announced his candidacy for president yesterday on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace. Here's a little bit of what Mark Sanford had to say about why he's running for president.
I'm here to tell you now that I am going to get in.
You're going to run for president against Donald Trump in the Republican race.
I am.
Why?
Because I think we need to have a conversation on what it means to be a Republican.
So, and I know you're going to get into this in just a few minutes with the Mix It Up politics panel, but it's very ironic that he hails from South Carolina because he is from one of the 4 states that has canceled their Republican primary or caucus. So South Carolina, Arizona, Kansas, and Nevada all are planning to suspend their primary or caucus because they say, at least the head of the South Carolina GOP is saying, that because there's no credible challenger to President Trump, even though there's now 3 declared challengers to Trump in the Republican primary, it would be a waste of taxpayer money. A lot of people are going to claim that this is an attempt by Trump to keep any of these guys from getting any sort of mojo going.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Frank, you and I were independents. We come down a lot of times like libertarians, at least I do. And one of the things me and you have always fought for were open, free and fair elections, ballot access, voter choice. So, you know, in my ideological heart of hearts, I'd like to just see them leave it open so that anyone can run. But also on my fiscal conservative side, no, everyone knows these aren't credible candidates. And Bill Weld I think is a good guy. He's had some good policies in the past. But Mark Sanford and Jeffrey Epstein, they should not be wasting states' money on these primaries. And there you go. I don't know if you know about it, but
if people don't get the reference, John has very astutely pointed out the striking similarity between the facial features of Jeffrey Epstein and Joe Walsh.
And I think it may be another Clinton coup. They broke him out of jail, and now he's assumed the identity of Joe Walsh, and he's trying to take down Trump another way. It's all for naught. It's all crazy. And everybody who's just tuning in, you're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. Famed political host, media maven, John Gibson, journalist, talk show host, and he's going to join us right after this on Liquid Lunch. We'll be back in just a few minutes.